Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Pet Connection podcast, where every third Wednesday we celebrate our furry, feathery, and scaly friends. Welcome, everyone. It's time for another Pet Connection show here on Big Blend Radio. Of course, Angela Laws is here from Trusted House Sitters. As you know, Nancy and I and Angela, we all have a lot of pet sitting experience. And, you know, Angela's really been doing it for a number of years. And between us all, we've had animals in our lives, all kinds of animals, from horses to lions, taking care of the lions, not as a pet, and to dogs, cats, snakes, tortoises, you name it. We've taken care of it. So this show today is about pet care, but really looking at summer. And that's a busy season for pet sitters. There's a lot of travel happening and so we're busy. But at the same time, things do change up. And we're going to talk about pet care tips for all animals because it is a big change, just like winter, you know, to really make sure hydration is the same thing, whether it's winter or summer. That hydration, I think, is one of the top things. Right, Angela? Welcome back.
Hi, Lisa. Lovely to be back, as always, talking about our favorite subject, which is animals and pets and caring for them and how they are so important in our lives. I'm actually talking to you today from San Diego. And you know what? I'm looking outside. And about 3 days ago, I was thinking, California weather, California sunshine, where the heck is it? And now, 3 days later, it is so hot out there. And of course, that's what we're going to be talking about. And it's just changed so much in the last 3 days. I mean, I was on a sit and I was running in and out with covers for furniture, outside furniture, covering them and trying to keep them dry. Now it's like, oh my gosh, we've got to put the umbrellas up and keep the dog indoors and keep it on the cool. So let's have that conversation, which is really, really important, about reminding people about how quickly it can change and how it can get hot and how we can care for our beloved animals who can't go in and take care of themselves either.
That's a big deal. Sometimes a lot of people do keep their dogs in the backyard, and sometimes some dogs are chained, which is not a cool thing at all, because if you had a house fire or something like that, you know, there's things that happen while you're not home. But water can be knocked over. It's so important to have more than one water source and in something that is shady and cool as best as possible. And you can't put ice in your dog's water. In fact, Trusted House Sitters has a whole blog on how to make your dog some sweet, icy treats that are healthy for them, all vet approved. So I'm going to put that link in the episode notes. Plus, you have some great blogs on keeping your pets hydrated and walking dogs in the summer heat. That's also important. But I think it's whenever it's extreme weather, and in summer, not only are we looking at extreme heat, but fire season is here, hurricane season, tornado season. So we're going to start seeing more on the natural disaster side. So that's another thing to think of, right, Angela? Not just the basics that we always want to bring up, but looking at being prepared for disaster.
Absolutely, because that's one thing we can't control and one thing we never know when it's going to happen. The only thing we do know is that it will happen. We just don't know when, although, you know, thankfully today we've got our phones and we've got weather forecasts and we've got everything else. However, things can change so quickly. So it's always like anything. It's be prepared. I mean, it's like that, you know, Boy Scout and Girl Guides, be prepared. But one thing I do want to say as well is that when we're talking about this heat and we're talking about being outside, and you was so eloquently put it, Lisa, about, you know, people keep their dogs outside or their pets outside. Just put yourself in their place. When you go outside and you're hot and you can move to somewhere that's shaded, or you can go in and open the ice box and get yourself something cool to drink. Our animals can't do that. And the thing about that is they've also got a fur coat. It's not like, you know, they haven't got their shorts and t-shirt on, they've got a fur coat. So when you're out and when you're thinking about the animals that are in your life, all the animals you're caring for, or any, you know, situation, just have that empathy and put yourself in their place, and just remember, they can't do it for themselves. We are the ones that need to take care of them. So we'll have this conversation today, and hopefully, you know, you'll get some awareness and you'll get some light bulb moments and you'll go, right. And then we will make summer a happy place for absolutely everybody.
Yeah. So let's talk about backyards. Okay. Backyards, people are starting to plant plants. So I always like to say, watch the plants that you're planting. You can just Google a list of, you know, the plants you're going to grow in your area and see if they are dog or pet friendly because that, cats also like to eat greenery, and sometimes it's not the greenery they should be having. But let's look at that safety, because sometimes we have more people over in the summer, especially if you have the neighborhood pool. Well, you know what's coming. So we've got a lot of people coming who may not know the rules of your house to keep, the cats in. Maybe the cats aren't allowed outside. Maybe you have an animal or a pet that shouldn't be around the water without somebody watching it. So I know that I love that article you have up there on Trusted House Sitters in the blog talking about, hey, get a life jacket for your dogs, especially if you're out going. How many people take their dog on a boat or a kayak? Get a life jacket for your dog too, just like we do for humans. But the backyard, the pool area, things can happen. And so do you think that families, like, there should be like someone at the door and says, this is the rules of the house when you come in, like, come have a party? But people are having barbecues, there's fireworks, we're in all of that season and fireworks, and you have friends over who aren't obeying the rules that the dogs and the cats know. That's when animals escape, and during 4th of July, all the explosions and things. So I kind of feel like we need to have like a person at the door that has the animal rules. What do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely. You can actually print it out. But you know what? The other thing too is that there are precautions you can take. And like you've mentioned, Lisa, we get an animal that may be scared by July the 4th fireworks, but they could be scared by the fact that there's more people around than there used to being. And somebody leaves the door open and they're gone. Make sure that their ID and their microchip and all those details are actually up to date always, not just now, but always. And the other thing with pools is there are parts of the world, and I'm sure I don't know the laws for every state in the United States, but there are parts of the world where it is mandatory to have a pool protected. It's where you have
Mhm.
fences around it, and that's for children's safety, and it's also for pet safety. But if you have a pool that's got no protection, nothing around it, and you've got animals, don't assume that every animal can jump in the pool or fall in the pool and swim itself to safety, because not necessarily. And if you don't know that they're there, you could have that. So it's all about awareness, and it's all about, you wouldn't let your children be unaccompanied around a pool. Don't let your pets be unaccompanied around a pool either, because they're even more in danger than your children are. Your children can yell and scream. A dog can bark, and you may think it's barking for some other reason, not because. And then if it's trying to get out the pool and it's got no breath, it can't bark. So be mindful, be careful, be water safe. And yes, as Lisa says on our blog, we've got lots of information, and just think, it just takes that moment to think about safety first. And again, with barbecues, don't leave bones lying around, don't leave
Oh,
garbage.
especially chicken. Yeah.
Gosh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So the barbecue is a good kind of starting point, because suddenly you have more people, and then it's like, oh, let's walk the dog. And, you've had a couple beers and you're like, hey, I've been in the pool. I'm all cool. And let's take the dog for a walk. And the dog's like, excuse me, I didn't swim in the pool. You did. You're cool. I'm not. And you're going to take my little paws and put them on hot, hot cement or
Yeah.
asphalt, even tarmac, whatever you call it. Is it
Oh,
tarmac?
asphalt. I mean, all of those things. But yeah, but the sidewalk, the pavements, you're going to take me off grass and put me onto concrete. Well, I've got news for you. As an owner, take your foot out of your shoe or your sandal
Mm.
or your flip-flop or whatever you've got. Put your foot on the floor. And if you can't leave it there for 5 seconds, that surface is too hot for your animal. That's too hot for your pet. So, but also it's not just their paws, don't take them out at the height of the day. I mean, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. And you know what?
Yeah.
The other thing too, and we say this all the time, don't we, Lisa? No dog ever died from not having a walk. They do from overheating, but never, ever do they die from not
Mm.
having.
Well, I had some interesting experiences walking. So some tips. And this is wildlife, because in summer, depending on where you live, a lot of times wildlife starts coming in more towards the homes because of the need of water. So I'm going more from the desert perspective. And so some tips on wildlife when you walk is you really don't want to engage with the wildlife. I have walked little dogs up to a snake and promptly picked their little butt skis up and marched them right out of there. And they got all excited. They're like, ooh, let's kill it. I'm like, no, but let's go. And your dogs will know if you're walking them. They know if you stay in constant communication when you walk your dog, then they know that you're aware of what they're doing. And if something happens, you're already in that communication. I'm not on a phone when I walk dogs, especially because they're not my dogs, but I like to be 100% aware of anything a drunk driver could be coming down the street, anything can happen. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to be aware and have that ear porthole to your dog as best you can. And then I've also walked dogs that are partially deaf. And recently I did. And it was just a different kind of day. It was gloomier. And, we had this dog and Nancy and I had just been through a tornado together in a closet. And the day before that, Nancy and I were actually in a tornado with the roof of a building going off down the street from us. And it was kind of freaky. And that's why I bring this up, because the season is here. But that little dog sat in a closet with us, so we got to know each other really well. And the next morning, it was cooler. The weather changed a little because of all the rain. And I went around the corner and I went, my, what kind of cat is that? Well, it was a big bobcat.
Wow.
And little Lancelot and I walk up, and he's an older dog. And like I said, is deaf mostly. And he's looking at this, and I did, I was like, wow, really? And the cat didn't turn around. And then I realized I have that split second that I need to turn around now and disengage, because the little dog was going to start barking, and he did. And I'm like, oh no, we're going. And when we started going the other way, he looked up at me like, yes, let's go, let's go. I don't want to mess with this cat either, because a bobcat will attack. Make no mistake. If you've got a teeny little dog, I've seen a bobcat take a cat out of the front yard before, and they're quick. And so I'm just saying, I'm not being very happy joy, I suppose, Angela, but I'm just saying, be aware, because those animals are out there right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? While we're talking, we hear, and our listeners will hear the word dog. And what we want to say is we may be saying dog a lot of the time, but all of this can actually apply to any animal. Obviously, your cats and especially outdoor animals that you may have, horses or what you're keeping outside. And they're more important than anything. Coming back to being at home and in the backyard and with that barbecue and all of that sort of, just be very aware and don't feed animals from the barbecue. Don't let watch your guests, and more importantly than anything else, and this goes for safety as well, is children. If you've got children visiting, they have not got a clue, and neither should they, but they should have, because you should be teaching them, but they won't have a clue. They'll need gates open. They'll encourage them to, animals to sort of do things that you wouldn't want. So watch that and just be very, very mindful that, while you can have a great afternoon in the garden with friends and family, and that your dogs, don't forget, and your cats and your animals are family too, just be very mindful of everything that could go wrong. You don't have to sit on edge and be that person that's going, oh my God, don't do that. But just be aware. And as they always say, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah, exactly. And then you feel better when you've got a plan in place. Then oh my gosh, I'm paranoid of everything your dog does or your cat. But the cat thing is true. So many cats are indoor, outdoor. And so make sure you got water outside for them, because things can happen. I'm one of those people who think there should be water throughout the house and around outside, because animals get caught. They get closed up in the garage all the time and stuff, and cats are sneaky. Yeah.
I mean, your animals are like you, are like us. They can do without food for quite a period of time in certain circumstances, but you can't do without water, and they can't do without water. So when you're looking at the summer and you're looking at that heat, as we've already said, don't take them out at the noon. There is a saying, mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. And it's really, really true. You don't do that. You go first thing in the morning, last thing at night, and also short walks or wherever it is. And the one thing that we have to repeat time and time again, and we shouldn't have to, but we do, is please, please, please don't take them out in your cars unless you really, really have to. Because a car can become an oven in the shortest space of time. Don't ever leave them. Don't ever leave any breathing, living being in your car when it's hot. Don't, because it can quickly become an oven. And just that minute, you say, oh, I'm only going to pop into the shop for a minute, the store for a minute. I'll crack the windows. That is not enough. And
Mm-mm.
so, unless you really, really need to take them out with you in the car, don't. Leave them at home where they're safe, where they're comfortable, where you know that when you come back, you're going to be greeted by a wagging tail or a purr you're home, rather than go back to your car and have to call the emergency services because something has happened.
Exactly. It's a no-brainer, but it happens because you think it's something small. And that's when weird things like somehow you lock your keys in the car, or, something gets held up at the store that you go in for 5 minutes. You never know what's going to stop you. You don't know what the future holds, but you
No,
can definitely be preventative. That's the thing when I talk about disasters and things. Always have your carrier for your cats, your dogs, trailers, things like that. Always open and ready. So many times I see things starting to pile up on carriers. And as we go into the season, and maybe it's an issue with a dog jumping in the water or something like that, and you need to do an emergency vet visit, it should be right there, easy to access, nothing in its way, and have that ready. Like I said, the way the weather is getting now, it's one of those things. So be prepared, have all the papers, know where you're going for the vets. I think as pet sitters, Angela, I think we kind of live that way. So we're always like, what's the vet number? Where's the vet located? I look it up on Google each time to see where the
oh,
vet is, just in case.
and you and Nancy know that more than most, because you've been through, I don't know. I mean, you've been through every single scenario as far as adverse weather conditions that you could actually think of. So, anybody wanting any advice, listen to Lisa and Nancy, because boy, oh boy, they've lived it. But yes, I mean, as sitters, and that's another thing of, as pet parents, and you're thinking, okay, traveling at this time of year, what do we do? How safe is it to board, etc. And there are great boarding facilities. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there aren't. However, the best place for your animals is at home. That's where they're safe. That's where they feel comfortable. That's where they feel secure. And to get a sitter in 24/7 and having that conversation before you even leave about how to care for their animals, your pet family members on a day-to-day basis and in an emergency. Once they've got all of that information, then you know that when you go away, you actually can go away with absolute peace of mind, knowing that everything's been done in order to prepare not just the sitter, but your pets, and have that veterinary information, and even let your vet know that you're leaving town. Even introduce your sitter to your vet. That's happened to me. I've met more vets through their pet parents introducing me and saying Angela is now here, and she's going to be looking after, Casey or whoever for the time that we're away. And so that familiarity, so you've got sort of a connection there, and nothing is going to be left.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing when you think about, animals and humans being left together, knew that you have these moments where you really spend time and get to know each other. So that's what I was talking about, like even with the walking dogs, that I talk to them all the time. So there's
Mm-hmm.
that communication. It's the same thing with cats. I always keep talking to them. And eventually they either go, well, I'm sick of your voice, or I'll come hang out with you, but you create a relationship.
Unless you're going to say treat time.
Yeah, I can't say that. I've got a big Great Dane sitting next to me. One step, but this is the thing too. It just keeps, every time we do a sit, we go, wow, I'm so glad people kept us for the sit, even though it was short. It's like if it was a short sit kind of thing, and you would think, oh, I could just have someone come and drop off kibble or something for the animals, cats and everything. And we were just having that conversation with the late, Mr. Lancelot, Sir Lancelot, that we call him. Little dog. We were talking with his pet parent, and we spent the evening, and we were talking about trusted house sitters, and the people we've all met and everything, and we were all talking about the fact of not leaving a house vacant. And then I said, yeah, we've seen so many things that, what if she had gone away and just hoped someone would give the dog kibble, and then the tornado sirens come?
Yeah.
How do you not be, you've got to be there. for
Mhm.
those dogs. And he has like a little thunder jacket you put on and everything. She didn't, she went 45 minutes away and we both went through the insane storm. And she was checking on us, we're checking in on her. And she was in the basement of a hotel and we're in her walk-in closet with the dog.
Okay, wow.
But that's the connection. But that's what I'm saying. Just understand that, we're in the season of weather. Winter and summer are those extreme seasons. And so take the time to get to know the animals if you're pet sitting. And if you're not a pet sitter and you're trusting people in your home, get some time to spend with them too. Everybody get to know each other if you can get that extra little bit in for when things happen. That little bit of getting to know you goes a long way. It really does. It's one of
Oh,
my
yeah.
biggest pieces of advice, really, from doing this. It's 5 years this 4th of July that Nancy and I have been pet sitting with Trusted House Sitters.
Oh my gosh, wow, congratulations.
Known you
July,
for
and it's been amazing. I mean, and just, the way that you and Nancy and all of our sitters and our members and the community that we've got, the connections that we make and the way this works is really, I mean, I call it magic, and I truly believe that it is, because ultimately we are brought together by the animals, because nobody, there are people that come to us for homes and to have those looked after, and that's absolutely brilliant, and we want more of those, because don't leave a house empty, because
Mm-mm.
knows what can happen. But with the pets, those pets connect us, and we may build these relationships. Sometimes we never go back. Other times we go back more and more and more, and we get to know them more and more and more. And we get to know them on a level that pet parents do, and they become ours, and we learn so much. But the one thing about it is that we're their guardians. We know these things are going to happen. And even you've looked after horses, and you've had
Mm-hmm.
horses in your life. I have too. And one thing about, those outside animals, the two things that they need all the time is water and protection. They need
Shelter.
somewhere to
Mm-hmm.
go. Need shelter. You see, I see a horse in the middle of a field or a pasture or their paddock, and it's like 80, 90 degrees. And I look around and there's not one tree in
Yeah.
sight. And it's like, how could you do that? I mean, I know, just think about, how would you want to be standing in the middle of a field at 80 degrees in the midday sun and not have anywhere to get any shade? So remember that. The other thing too is animals can actually get sunburn. And if they're
Mm-hmm.
light colored, if they're white and they've got pink skin, you need to apply sun lotion on them. You need to stop it, because just imagine that sunburn can turn into skin cancer, and they can get it just as easily as we can. So, don't think that because they live outside, you don't have to do anything for them. You actually have to do more for them than if they were inside and had that shelter.
Yeah, and because animals in the wild, you always set up home where there's a cave or there's something that they have a shelter for.
Yep.
It's when you think about the roots of wildlife to now domesticated, they know how to take care of themselves that way. They would always be somewhere where there is a tree or something, to keep them shaded. So that's important. And the other thing is to pick up after animals.
Yep.
Clean up. The poopy thing in the summer brings more flies, which brings what? Disease. So especially when we look at our equines too, wherever you're dumping, the poop should be far away from the stables or the paddock, whatever you want to call it, corral, whatever country we're in now, Angela. Get the poop away. And it's the same for dogs. Just think about this. Fido is running through the backyard, through the poo and the pee, and then comes running back in and wants to give mom and dad a kiss. Well, isn't that nice? I'm just saying. So, and
I'm
I'm just saying there's a cleanliness that needs to go with it, because that will attract other things like more flies, which again, that is actually where a lot of disease comes from, is that
Yeah,
specifically.
and if you have never seen, and I mean, I don't want to get too, well, no, I do actually. If you've never seen an animal with fly strike and what that
Mm,
does to them, then, just be aware. And, even if you want to go online and Google it, but that's what can happen if you really don't take care of hygiene and take care of good, stable management, or good management of any animal. And that goes from your pet that is living inside and is a family member to those living outside. Good husbandry, takes work, it takes time, but actually what you'll do is you will give your animals the best lives. You will save yourself a ton of money from vet fees.
Hmm.
You will actually have a healthy, happy animal, and you look after your children in the same way. Look after your pet family members in exactly the same way. And I was actually talking to somebody yesterday, and they said that they were thinking of getting another animal, and at their time in life, it's probably not the best thing. And I said, well, I know you love them, but why don't you volunteer, etc. And then I turned around and said, you're talking about you might get another pet family member. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you want another child at this time of your life? And she said, no. Why? And I went, because actually, when you get yourself a pet family member, you're getting a child that never grows up. Your child
Hmm.
is going to be able to get itself out of bed, take itself to school, get its own food, get its own drink, ask you when they need something. However long they're in your life, whether that be 1 year, 10 years, or 15 years, you are going to be doing for them. You're going to be doing for them every day without fail. Nothing is going to stop. This is why sitters are such a godsend, because you can actually go away and let them do for your children, furry children, in exactly the same way as you do. But if you're thinking of getting another animal at any time in life, you have to think about it carefully. But put this in your place, put this in your brain. You are getting another child that will never grow up. And actually, they sometimes don't grow up from chewing, but they do eventually. But we know that. But then they become a senior, and you're looking after them as a senior. So when we're talking about weather, when we're talking about anything, it all is combined with having that responsibility and that awareness in those pet family members who actually rely on us 100%.
Yeah, I agree. They're voiceless, even if they bark or purr or meow or neigh or whinny, they are voiceless. And so we're the custodians, but they're family. And I love taking care of animals. I do. I really do. I enjoy it because you can see they're happy when they're cared for. They will tell you with their eyes how happy they are, and they love to have fun. I mean, walking dogs early in the morning, it's so nice to close the day with a dog walk. And, in summer, it's beautiful to walk with the stars out in the sky, depending on where you are. Some dogs get to go play in the water, and like retrievers, how they love it. And so summer is a time of fun for dogs and for humans and for cats, but keep them cool. They don't want to be sweaty. They don't like that. They like their fur to be nice and, cared for, and they care for it mostly, cats are. But, yeah, I find it, just have fun, but do the due diligence as a whole. But have fun, because man, so you've gone riding on a beach on horseback, right? How many
Yep.
horses want to go roll in the water? That's dangerous. But isn't it fun to be out early morning on a summer morning, out on the beach on a horse or with a horse, just
Oh,
walking?
oh, the best, the best. Provided you've got a flat beach that's hard, that actually is
Mhm.
miles long, and you're not going to be, on a jittery horse that's actually going to find something and go whoops, because that's happened to me. Just one thing, as we're talking about the heat and the weather and being aware, that has come to me too, is that, if you are in the climates where air conditioning is used on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and that's how you keep yourselves cool, don't forget your animals are actually in that same environment.
Mhm.
They're in air conditioning. You're keeping them artificially cool so that when you go outside, they've actually acclimatized themselves to living in those temperatures indoors. You take them outside into the temperatures that you've got the air conditioning running because you don't want to live in them. They don't have any way of cooling themselves. They don't have the ability. And did you know, most pet parents will know this, animals don't sweat. They cannot, they lose the heat
Mhm.
out of their bodies through panting. But they can't sweat. So they've got those coats. And again, with your grooming, keep them groomed. If it's
Yeah.
possible, keep them trimmed. I mean, some people prefer to do it, some others don't, but I had my Springer Holly, and we lived in climates like India and Africa, and I used to keep her clipped, and she lived in um, you know, she lived in air conditioning temperatures as well. So I was really, really aware, especially when we lived in India. But I kept her coat clipped, and I found that that was more comfortable for her. I'm not going to say you have to do it. And always, 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 any treatment you're going to do or anything you're going to do with your animals, if you're not sure whether or not you should do it, ask a professional, ask a vet, ask anybody. And if you really are not sure, just get that advice from the people who know.
I agree. I agree. And the trimming is a big deal. And brushing because they're shedding, especially really, some dogs that get that thick, furry winter coat are still shedding right now. And so getting that up and, get it out. And put it with the poopy. The shapoopies all have to go
Oh,
out too, because they do things nest in there and whatever. So keeping that fur clean is a big deal, even for cats. Cats, if you can groom your cat, it's going to help with the fur ball thing and all of that. So it's always good. But I just wanted to put this out there. Dog toenails. I
oh,
see so many people forget dog toenails and wonder why their dog's walking a little wonky. They like to have a manicure too. And that I would say if you are not sure about doing it because you got to be careful of their little cuticles and you don't know quite where they are, go to a specialized groomer or vet or someone who is trained to do it. It can be tricky depending on the dog, you know?
yeah, there's not too many dogs that actually like their feet touched either. My Springer Holly, she would scream like a banshee if you got near her feet and to clip her toenails. And I used to take her to the vet to have it done because there's no way she'd let me do it. There are sort of things you can buy. There are these files or these sort of battery driven ones that actually are better than the clippers, because the clippers,
Hmm.
if you've got claws that are black and you cannot see the line, it's so easy to go too far, and actually they bleed profusely if you cut down too far. But you're right, Lisa. I mean, don't let them overgrow because it's uncomfortable for them. It really isn't. Yeah. I mean, unless you're going to let your own nails grow so that you can't do anything with them, just bear in mind that, this is the same thing. This is what's happening with them. Same with
Yeah.
horses. Also, keeping care of horses' feet. There's a saying, no foot, no horse. And
Hmm.
it's true.
Yeah, it absolutely is. No, no. So it's all about water and good food routines as well. You can't put ice in water depending, but always clean the water bowls too, because in summer, that's when mold and algae can, accumulate in bowls. The slime gets all in there. So it's really good for animals, and they love running water. I don't care if it's a dog, of course. If you have the ability to give fresh, clean running water, do it. They love it.
Yeah.
It's just like we would prefer a glass of water that's fresh out of the faucet, kind of, not stagnant. Stagnant water has a different taste. So I just think that they don't get to have a choice of what they get to eat and drink as much. So try and keep it as fresh as possible. But Angela, always good tips, getting people to think about, oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
changes come.
Absolutely, and it's our favorite subject, so we could talk all day. And yeah, but the one thing that I want to say too is that you're putting the links up to the blog, but the other point being is, when anybody's listening and when our listeners are on here, if you have any questions for us, just ask. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's all about sharing. And if you've got any really good tips yourselves, share those, because we don't know it all. We think we do, but we don't. I mean, we've learned a lot. I came out the womb with a leash in my hand, and I've sort of, and reins and everything else. And so, and I'm really, really lucky. I've got two incredible veterinarians in my immediate family, my daughter and my daughter-in-law. So if I need to share or go off to somewhere and get an instant reply, I can go to one of those. And I'm still waiting for the bill over the years of how many times I've asked them. But yeah, so it's all about awareness and knowledge is power.
That's right. That's right. And you can be the voice for your own animals and
Absolutely.
others as well. Well, thank you so much. And this summer, I hope people get out there and go and volunteer with animals and to
Yeah.
help them, take them on walks and things like that. If you have a summer vacation, sometimes if you don't have an animal in your life, but you miss one and you have a really busy schedule, just like what Angela was saying, this summer, maybe go, hey, I'm going to go volunteer to go hang out with animals in a shelter or do some social media work to help promote them. Do something like that. It'll make you feel better. But there's always that connection out there. Part of helping animals that are being rescued is to let them know that love exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And you join Trusted House Sitters community and become it is
I
the
know.
most rewarding and fulfilling thing you can do. And you know what? It's that auntie, grandma, whatever you want to call yourself, because you can be in their lives, you look after them as mum and dad wants them looked after, and you don't do anything that they wouldn't want you to do, but you can be with them. You can make them, give them all the love in the world, which is what we have. We've got this huge capacity for love when it comes to animals in our community. Give them all that. And then you can walk away and you can give them back and have a break if you want to, but go on to the next one. And each one is different and each situation is unique. So yeah, and for pet parents out there, you can travel more than you ever thought possible. And because you've got people like Lisa and Nancy and me and thousands of others who are out there waiting to come and give your animals tender, loving care while you're not there.
And I know a lot of people we sit for also pet sit and travel. Yeah. And so they're like, hey, I've got a trip coming. I'm going here and I'm going to pet sit this. And then they'll message and we'll message each other because that's what we all do to keep everybody informed of what's happening. And then it's like, well, how's your dog? Well, your dog's doing good. And then, well, how's the pig you're babysitting in Puerto Rico? I don't know if there was a pig in Puerto Rico, but I think there was once. Yeah.
So I'm sure there was at some point.
But yeah, but that's the point. And it's like this big community and we all actually help each other. It's so funny because you get sits that you really know the sensitivity of the animal, the people too, and know that it's just like it needs some kind of qualification kind of thing of really knowing that this needs an extra TLC kind of approach, especially with rescue animals, with medications and all of that. And so we all kind of know each other as we grow in this organic community. And so when any of us come up with those circumstances, we message each other if we can't do the sit to try. And it's like an extra layer of trust. You know what I mean? That we all know each other and have somehow sat for each other or something, in that capacity. So then it's like this extra recommendation and it happens, people find new sits all the time, but we're also all kind of like, oh, well, I've got a friend who would probably really be a good match. Have you seen that, Angela, too, on the platform?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
And
nice.
yeah, and you and I know that we both do it. And it's all about that communication, isn't it? It's all about the relationships we build, and it's about trust. And that trust is so, so important. And it's trusting that you are giving your animals the best option of pet care that there is. And once you get to know it, it's like anything else. Trust is earned by communicating and coming together. We know who we can trust and why we can trust them and how we can trust them. And I think the most important thing is the why we do this, not anything else. It's the why. And the why, it boils down to the fact that we love animals and we want to
Mhm.
help them live their best lives.
In closing, do you have a memorable summer pet sit that you've done that made you feel like, yeah, you're enjoying summer on a pet
Oh,
sit with the pet?
there's one, and there's one, and I go to it again in August. Now it's in Barnes in London, and some might say, why would you want to be in the city in the summer? Well, if I tell you that my home in Scotland is beautiful, however, it's in the middle of nowhere, and for me to go anywhere, I have to get in a car. I can't go to a cafe and just sit and have a nice coffee or tea. I can't go and sit in a pub and have a nice pub lunch. I have to get in a car and drive. So I go to Barnes in London. And it's one of the most sought after postcodes in London and places. Everybody wants to live there. I have to say it's also in the direct path of Heathrow. So the planes start going at 4:30 in the morning and finish at 1:30. However, it's like a village within London. It's got a village pond, it's got a village green, it's got pubs, it's just such a lovely location. But my pull there is I first looked after Teasel when she was 6 months old. This is a cat.
Oh,
And I first looked after her when she was 6 months old. I'm going back there in August, and I usually go for a month to 5 weeks. Sometimes I've gone 6 weeks, but it's always a month because they have a home in the Hamptons. The husband is American, and they go out there and they spend the summer in the States. And when I go back this time, Teasel is 15 years old.
wow.
I have
Wow.
only missed 2 years, and that was when there was something called, that I'm
Wow.
sure everybody's aware of, a pandemic, and couldn't travel. Everything was locked down. But no, I've been going to the sit in London for 15 years, and I can walk out of the front door down the road, and in 5 minutes, I'm sitting at Gail's patisserie and I'm having a cake and a tea, or I can walk over the road within 5 minutes and I'm in the most amazing pub having Sunday lunch. There you go.
I love this. I love this. She, one of our travel writer friends, Diane Dobry, just did an article about barns. It's up on our site. I'm going to put a link to it so you can see it.
Wow.
Yeah, she did a whole thing, and because there's a lot of music history that comes out of barns.
Yeah, there's the Olympic Studios, which is
That's
now
right, Olympic Studios, and then she talked about T-Rex.
the
That
Beatles.
no. T-Rex is a bang a gong, get it on.
Yeah, yeah,
Bang a
yeah.
gong. Yeah, he wrote that. Yeah, his car accident was there, so they have a memorial to him, which is cool. And actually, we interviewed his son. I'm going to say about maybe 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, but you got to also think that people like Brian May, it's
Yeah,
Mark Bolan. T-Rex is the name of the band, kind of thing. Mark Bolan, but Brian May and Roger Taylor of Queen
yeah.
um, have called it home. I mean, it's just, and then you've got all the gardens, Kew Gardens, right? Royal Botanic Gardens. Um,
Absolutely, and it's close to Wimbledon too. And you've got the park, the huge park, which name escapes me right now, at Richmond Park. I've been riding in Richmond Park. Most amazing stables there, and a great riding area. But yeah, so many people, and there's lots of celebrities and media people who live in barns. But I mean, I go there because, after going there for 15 years, it's like going home. I mean, I get
yeah.
there and Catherine has already left. Catherine and Ian have already left. I go to the neighbor who welcomes me in for a cup of tea, and I get the key. I go there, and the neighbors know me, and I watch their, yeah. I mean, it's again, it is community, and it's communication, and it's these relationships we build up. And honestly, in all of my life, and it's been a long one, and I've traveled all over the world, I've been really, really lucky. I have never found a community that is like Trusted House Sitters. Never. And the reason I believe it is the way it is because it's built on trust and it's built on animals. And those are the two that come together to create the magic.
I agree. That's why I think the community thing is so huge because you really do become friends and family. It's like a different kind of family, and it's all about care and love. And then also the people side. Let's care, we care about where we're going, the places we're going.
Absolutely.
That care gene is there.
It's like you, Nancy, and you, me, and Nancy. I mean, we've known each other for we've never met in person. However, we have this relationship and this synergy and this,
Hmm.
anything anybody wants, any of us want to know, we just contact each other, and it's like nothing is too much trouble. Nothing.
No, and it's like it's so funny. We'll meet in person and we'll just continue talking as though that's what happens, But I think the community part is so big, and I want to touch on this. And I just did a speaking engagement on this, on how different forms of tourism that comes from a place of integrity. So tourism that is cultural tourism, which is on an all-time high, tourism that has to do with nature,
Mhm.
volunteering, those kinds of things, right? Which is transformative, which is another type of tourism for the individual traveling because you're transforming yourself by growing and it changes you. Then there is regenerative tourism, which is like really being the organic of the organic. And it's about not just helping and putting back, but making sure what you put back grows on its own. So it's a big deal. Like if you help to plant a tree and it has a system to actually be watered and everything, you have become regenerative and helping a tree in a natural space somewhere, or maybe even a park area that's urban that needs a tree. You've done something that is going to really affect future generations. So it's kind of this really interesting thing. And I actually use Trusted House Sitters because, travel, people want authentic experiences. Travel is about community, and community is about people uniting, unity and community, right? That word is in
Yeah.
there. And Trusted House Sitters for us has proven to be a community outside of what people may argue about politically on social media or on websites, and have this weird way of being able to just argue with the world. But when it comes to something like caring for a loved one, which is a pet, and still also all having that adventurous spirit of wanting to learn about a new place, or maybe they're going somewhere to take care of family or working, no matter what you're doing as a traveler, you've created a bond of community. For the sitters, we are part of the temporary community of a community. And we're actually very light-footed. We're still buying food like the people did when they've gone out and traveled. We're actively boosting the economy by helping people travel. People get
Yeah.
to go around the world, and you know what they do? They drop money at home for their travels before they even travel out. So even their town is benefiting from their vacation because Miss Susie Q wants to get a new hairdo. We need new tires on the car before we take that road trip. So your community is making money off of tourism. A pet sitter comes in, they're actually contributing to the community like the other people would by grocery store or whatever. They're still going to a restaurant. They still put gas in their car or charge it, whatever it's going to be. And then it goes further and people start to know about towns, and people that maybe stay in an urban kind of setting, like you're talking about Barnes, it's this beautiful neighborhood, right? We
Yeah.
start to know neighborhoods. And then you start to realize that what you're doing as a temporary community member is you're actually adding to the quality of life. A community doesn't have quality of life. They need tourism. That's all I have to say. You tweaked my nerve there in a positive way. Not a nerve, but you got me on my soapbox a little bit there on the tourism and community part, because I really believe it is one way we can change the world in a positive.
I agree with you. And to layer on that, and not to take too much time to do it, but to layer on that as well, Lisa, is sustainability travel. I mean, because you're not looking at building more hotels. You're using homes that are always that are going to be there anyway. That it's not oversubscribing, it's not over tourism. It is sustainable. It's using what is already in existence to its fullest benefit.
And it saves you money as a
Oh,
travel
yeah. The support.
as a traveler. It's affordability, and sometimes you get things like a local will have a more cost-effective parking thing for a park or something, or an attraction going, oh, I'm local, or our family has a membership, so here, go in there for free.
Oh,
Whereas it
yeah.
may have cost you $100 to go to something that you've been dying to do. And they're like, oh, here, just go in.
It's like when we go to Barnes. I mean, Barnes has, like most of London and big cities, parking is a nightmare because none of these houses have garages. Very few have garages. When we go there, Catherine and Ian leave a book of parking tickets for us. We don't have to pay for it. And Catherine also leaves me, her National Trust pass. She leaves me passes to museums, to all of those things that while we're there, we can take advantage of them. And she'll also leave me a travel card, oh, there's still so much on this one. You don't have to, you only have to top it up with such and such. And so it is that, it's that passing it on and passing it forward and making things so much easier, and actually looking at, and it's not wasting anything. It's actually, and it's sharing. It's absolutely sharing all of that good stuff that if we
Yeah.
all think about it, we can make life better for each other.
And you know what I'd love to see? This is the other part that, when I was doing this speaking thing, and because I was kind of going off of what happens with Trusted House Sitters is teaching about how it's community. The other part, what I see about, and that shocked me, is, Nancy and I do work in the tourism industry as travel writers and all of that. And we work with CVBs or convention visitor bureaus, destination marketing organizations. That's our real job, right? And so we work with all the industry side of it. And sometimes we'll go to a town and we'll go, oh, well, this park looks really cool. They're like, oh, we never looked at that as tourism. And they've taken things for granted. And I think everyone at some point starts to take their community for granted and forgetting the joy of why they live there. It's just a natural thing that
Yeah.
happens. But what I've
Hmm.
seen through the people that we sit for, I mean, I'll never forget Allison and Madison, and I hope she's listening. It was one of our, beginning sits the first year. And this is when we're going to Madison, Wisconsin. And at the back, she just went to town. She printed the guide out that you do on Trusted House Sitters. Everyone has a welcome guide, so you know how to feed the animals and, where the electric box is and all that kind of stuff. And at the back, it's like recommended restaurants, cafes, or shopping or attractions. What, you can do your own little guide. She put a book together. And then she's like, if you go to this brewery, say hi to this guy and tell him we sent you. And it's like it was like a village. Like she made us feel like we were already walking into this little idyllic village, which it was and it is. Isn't it? And so I'm like, they're taking pride in their place.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Which I think we kind of forget until suddenly you want to show someone around. And I've had people send me maps and take things aside and be like a welcome wagon as though they're running a hotel to make sure you get to see this. Oh, they know we're into parks, and they'll hand draw us a map to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that is a beautiful thing, because then you have pride of region, which means you keep the integrity and you keep the history and you keep your town beautiful and clean, So I just see this on a very big picture of how this works in these very quiet ways. Travel really does make change, and summer is the big travel season. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind about, like, you're part of this community wherever you go. You're always part of a community. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Doesn't that make you excited to travel? To just, you're always going to be somewhere new in a new community, just on our mindset, I think it's a beautiful thing. And we got a Great Dane called Huck right here, and he's going to snore.
And I've got a little teddy bear called Casey.
Uh-huh. Well, that's
So-
awesome. Well, happy summer.
And let's just say one more thing is happy Father's Day to all the dads out there and all the pet dads, and because pets are family too.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Pet Connection podcast. New episodes air every third Wednesday. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com and learn more about the world of pet sitting at TrustedHousesitters.com.